Next we have lot number 34, a collection of model railway items. Start me where you will. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 70, 80, 90, 100, 2, 3, 3, 3. Any advance on £300? Going, gone. So what really did happen to that collection of model railway items that I featured on one of my recent videos? Was it a case of King Midas, or did it all go a bit steptoe and son? I'd like to start this video with a word of caution. As soon as I filmed the initial video displaying some of the things that I purchased in that collection, they all went into one of my outbuildings for storage, and I use it for a lot of my stuff. Sadly, I discovered that the building had subsequently developed a leak, and I know that many of you have your model railway rooms and your wargaming rooms in outside buildings. I would advise strongly that you make sure those buildings are waterproof as we approach the end of the summer and what we call the here in Cornwall anyway, the wet season approaches rapidly. It didn't actually detract from any of the value to an extent of what I'd purchased. Some of the boxing was damaged, and of course, if you're a collector, boxes are part of the value. I mean, that's one of the reasons why you purchase these items. So just make sure you've taken those precautions. Secondly, I'd like to apologise to my subscribers and regular viewers that it's been a while since I uploaded a video. That's partly because I had a bad fall outside and cracked a few ribs. That's a vastly overrated experience. Don't try that at home. It's really not worth it. So here we are then. Where did it all go? Well, the fact is I'm still to dispose of quite a lot of that collection of items that I featured in that video, and you'll find a link to that video on the screen there. So how did it all go? Well, I haven't disposed of all of that collection of items yet, and it'll be quite a while before I do so. I also realised while I was sort of putting some of that stuff away that I'd fallen into the trap of acquiring way too much stuff through other sources. I'd bought things, as we all do when you go to trade fairs and shows and all the rest of it, and you see the odd bargain on eBay and you think, oh, I'll buy that. That's a good deal. I'll have that. And you haven't really thought about where you're going to put it. I fall into that. I fall into that category. Maybe you do too. And it sort of dawned on me that I really need to have a massive clear out. So of that collection specifically that I purchased that was in that video, I knew straight away I was going to keep a number of items, and I will do. And some of those items need a little bit of work, refurbishing, bit of servicing on some of the locos. Some of them need a bit more work than others. They're all DC, of course, and they'll get DCC conversions in due course, and that's something I'll be undertaking myself, and might do a video on that. But there's plenty of very good videos out there about how to put DCC into a DC locomotive that's, historic. Did I get all my money back? Well, not yet, clearly, because I haven't sold it all. I haven't disposed of it all. Do I expect to get my money back? Yes, I will. The purchase was slightly unusual in that it wasn't a pure business transaction. I was helping out somebody who is a personal friend simply to clear some space. A bit ironic considering I discovered in that process that I've cluttered up my own space a bit too much. So you'll find in the description for this video a further link to my eBay page, and there'll be stuff going on there all the time of various scales, right the way through from N gauge up to O gauge, and all sorts of things, rolling stock, scenic items. There'll be model buses, model trucks, also there's going to be lots going on there. So when we face this temptation to buy something, especially if it's a collection that's presented in front of us, and it didn't happen quite like my introduction, are we blinded? Do we not see the wood for the trees? Well, I think it's very easy to do so. I paid a reasonably decent rate for the things that I acquired, along with all the things that I've acquired throughout my whole scale model making career, really. Tried to look for bargains, but It is easy to get carried away when you can acquire so much stuff in one go, and you do tend to lose sight of the true value. It was interesting, actually, that in the comments for the first video when I revealed that collection, there was a chap, I can't remember the name, please forgive me, who left a comment about he valued it at X. I won't reveal the figure, but he revealed it at that on the basis that he was a retailer, and these were what these items were worth to him within his retail space. Or I think he was retired, actually, but that's how he would value it. And that's a very good way to approach it, because everything occupies space, and it doesn't necessarily have to be retail space. These things occupy space in your own home or in your model railway room or wherever it may be. And it does come a point where you think, have I actually got too much? So then you think, how am I going to offload some of this stuff? Well, I'm in a rather lucky position, and I appreciate and know that I'm fortunate in that. So some of the items that I acquire, not just in the collection from that video, but in general, I donate and give away to other people who are not quite so fortunate. And let's face it, we are in an expensive hobby, and it doesn't matter which country you live in, whatever the currency is that you deal in, it's not cheap, and especially if you're into things like DCC model railways. I also had a couple of Tamiya remote control trucks, 1/14 scale. They're not cheap either. There are not really cheap options in this hobby unless you're going to go with something like a model railway starter set. One of these sort of bubble pack things where you get a diesel train or a steam train, some rolling stock, a basic oval of track, maybe a one set of points or turnout and a siding, and a pretty basic DC controller. Unless you're going to go down that route and expand from there, it's not a cheap hobby. By the way, that's not an option I would recommend, because unless you have an existing large amount of DC items, the costs of conversion to DCC are not exactly prohibitive, but you'd be in for quite a run of money, quite a run of expenditure. So that's not a route I would recommend. If you are going to buy a starter set, get a DCC one, because then at least you're in the game. You've joined in the game rather than being on the sort of suspense, as it were. And I certainly don't wish to put any DC operators down with that statement. But in terms of commercial value and the reality of where we are now, it has to be DCC to maintain any sort of value, really. That's especially true, by the way, if you don't have the skill set to convert DC to DCC. You're going to have to pay somebody to do it. And it's really not a world you want to get involved with. So that particular collection, where do I stand right now? Well, about 50% of the outlay has been recovered. What do I envisage for the rest of it? I would hope to recover the remaining 50% and at least therefore realise an equal return. Will I make a profit? Maybe. To a degree, that's in the lap of the gods, i.e. the marketplace value at any one time. So some of the stuff, together with some of my old stuff and other items, are going to go on eBay. And yes, I'll have to pay a commission, of course, but I will get the true worldwide market value for those items, provided, of course, I word the adverts right, that everybody, anybody who wants to buy something is going to be there and hopefully, luckily, maybe placing a bid on it. It's very difficult. And as I said, when you are confronted with a collection of things, you do tend to sort of not see the wood for the trees, you know. Um, just a few words of how it went, really. In the next video, I'm going to be looking at building kits to exhibition standard. And I feel qualified to do that because I have built dioramas and bits of dioramas that have gone into museums and exhibitions. And I'm very lucky. I've been paid for quite a lot of that work as well. So as a semi-professional, although I'm constantly trying to retire, as a semi-professional, I do feel qualified to do that and speak about it. And we're going to look at plastic kits and metal kits, not so much etched brass kits, but certainly white metal kits, because they're something that they are making quite a bit of a comeback, I think, anyway. And we'll look at those, and we're going to look at preparation, construction, painting, how you're going to set those finished products into your diorama if they're going into dioramas. You need to think about all that kind of stuff. So I hope you will join us for that one. If you're not already a subscriber, please do subscribe. Hit the like button for this video. That really would help. And we'll see you very soon, I hope, on St. Blasey Model World. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.